In this game, both sides engage in a fierce battle on the queen side, and only later does white carry out a swift attack on black's king side.
Also, you will see black launch an assault on white's loose pawns.
We are about to enter into the game character selection room. This is the game character matchup. The characters you see in front of you have their own unique playing style. I'm going to give you a brief description of each style. Number 1, the bow constrictor looks for subtleties in the position. Their idea is to squeeze the opponent like a snake. The main feature of their game is trickery. Number 2, the tactician is about beauty. 3, before going in for the kill, the defensive player is all about restraint. 4, the attacker tries to force the opponent into a bad position by any means necessary. Number 5, the counterpuncher just simply wants to stymie the opponent. 6, the strategist is about setting goals based on structure, position, and the relative value of the pieces. In this first match, the tactician versus the defensive player. The tactician is playing white and the defensive player is playing black. This is a difficult system for black. The recapture with the G pawn doubles the pawns on the F file. The main move here for white is King B1, but white chooses a sharper continuation. Knight takes C6. In this example, white sacrifices 2 pawns. Why? He's sacrificing the pawns to get the initiative to attack. And he's doing this by transferring his heavy pieces to the center. And he's going to attack directly down the D and the E files. The bishop guards the H1 to A8 diagonal. The bishop on F8 sits there to guard against the knight wanting to go to G7. Also, the D6 pawn has to be protected. The king is stuck in the center. So black has to come up with a plan of action. The opening line that black chose is for players who want to improve their defensive skills. It's good practice. Now pay close attention to white's next move. Rook takes D5. Do you see why? Pause the video if you have to. In the game, black just responds with queen to B6.
Queen takes d5 will fall to knight takes f6 check, forking the king and queen. But white's tactics are not over yet. There's more to come. And this line leads to a draw by perpetual. In this next game, the bow constrictor is playing white versus the counterpuncher who's playing black. Now remember last time in this position, white played knight takes c6. That's a sharp continuation, but here the bow constrictor plays king to b1. Remember the bow constrictor style, they look for subtleties in the position. The tactician, on the other hand, went for the sharper continuation. Now you see how white now attacks the pawn on e6. And here black shows how to push the white pieces back. That is what counterpuncher is good at. The main feature of black's game, queen sits on b6 to guard the a and b pawns. The bishop attacks along the c1 to h6 diagonal, and the king will sit on the e7 square. And as usual, there's always a rook on c8. Now in this next game, the attacker versus the strategist. The attacker plays white, strategist plays black. Playing the black side, a strategist knows exactly how to play with the backward D pawn by advancing it forward. So the strategist makes plans based on structure, etc. And soon you're going to see not only the strategist but the attacker also will attack weak pawns. You're going to see both sides going after weak pawns in the position. And the idea is to force the opponent into a passive defensive position. The attacker is looking to move the queen somewhere along the 5th and 6th ranks to check the king, for example, queen to c5. Also, the pawns are hanging on f5 and c3. Here, the attacker has two options: to take the pawn on a5 or to take the queen. As a strategist, black welcomes the trade of queens to go into an endgame. Now watch this amazing move by the strategist. First, black plays the king to e7 to attack the bishop on f7. And after the retreat, bishop d3 is played so that the e-pawn can advance forward.
And now in this game, the defensive player versus the bow constrictor. The defensive player is playing white, and the bow constrictor is playing black. I want to draw your attention to the knight on c6. Now, depending on taste, or maybe even style, some players don't mind trading off the knight on c6, but in black's game, the preference is to try to get the knight to the c4 square, but white, being a defensive player, does not allow it and goes for the trade of queens by playing the queen to a5 instead.
Glowed up, I drop jaws, make it say
Notice how aggressively black is advancing the pawns in the center and on the queen side. A fierce battle is taking place. Will white be able to defend against the attack down the c file? The bishop that's on h6 is beaming down to white's king on the c1 to h6 diagonal, and black has plans such as maybe a4, pawn to b4, etc., and the battery along the c file. Here, black sacrifices 2 pawns to get the bishop open to check the king. The rooks are defending the bishop. Now white's going to lose the knight, but at the same time gets the rook. This was black's intention. Now with the bishop on a3 and the battery on the c file, now the threat is queen to c1. Remember in my previous videos when I said that an assassin must know how to defend his own weaknesses? This position is a true test of the defensive player's skill. Queen e3 guards the c1 square along with the rook on d1, and from here white is able to check the king. Pay close attention to how the pieces are placed. White just removed the rook from the bishop's line of fire, and this move is possible because the bishop on f3 holds the rook on d1. Now the position is very sharp, razor sharp. Now we see the defensive player going for the kill.
Okay, that is all I have for the moment. Remember to take notes, write these moves down so that you may go over these lines later.